Hello, this is Yarrow, and welcome to another episode of the Yarrow podcast. I'd like to start today's episode with a quick story. So, back around the holiday period, I can't remember if this was the Sunday before or after Christmas or New Year's, but around about then, I had a sales call booked for my agency. And I was surprised because it was booked for like 10 o'clock, 10 p.m. on a Sunday. And first of all, I don't usually have weekends open on my calendar. And second of all, it was this holiday period where we tend to block off the calendar for the entire week. I have a team that does sales calls. Usually there's me and one or two other people. So we have different time slots where my team looks after calls, but none of them work on weekends. And I don't think I usually have my calendar open on weekends either. So I have no idea how this calendar spot was open, but for some reason it was. And this person managed to book in a call. And I was thinking it must be a job seeker. We have that happen a lot. People book for sales calls and they're looking for a job. Unfortunately, we try and stop them from doing this, but a few people still do it. Or a person who's not really that serious because, like, why are they looking for this kind of service? Why looking for anything at this time of year? But I thought, you know what? It's Sunday night, 10 o'clock. It's pretty quiet for me. I'm going to just jump on the call and I'll see who's there. I'll probably just end it in 5 minutes and away we go. So I jump on the call and it turns out this person is actually a founder of a startup and they're well funded and he's super busy and drowning in tasks and emails. And we ended up having an hour long deep dive discussion into his business and, of course, how my company's service could help him. And by the end of it all, I felt like this person was a friend. He signed up as a customer, and he didn't onboard until the new year because team wasn't working yet. But it was a really interesting experience and reminded me of something I've had happen several times. Not the timing, but the experience of speaking to someone who, and here's the important part, he commented on how he loved that I was there and answering a call, and I was the co-founder of the company. He really connected with that co-founder grit or motivation to just keep your company growing and being available. And I think that played a part in why he signed up. It's definitely not the only factor. Obviously, me being there to take the call when he wanted to do it was a big part of it, and I'm a wholehearted believer in what Alex Hermosi talks about. One of the best things you can do to increase your sales calls and your lead generation is just open up your calendar fully. So 24/7, if you can have the entire calendar open all the time, you're going to get more calls booked. Maybe that's what happened that period. I can't remember. Maybe I did have my calendar open for Sundays as well. But anyway, but what the point is of this, I want to point out what actually happened, not just on the call. The call was really important. We discussed many things about our services, the situation, how it might work together. But I want to talk about everything that also happens in the lead up to a call like this, because this person was doing research. And this is very common for a lot of the sales calls I do. The person has been looking for help, in our case, looking for an assistant to delegate tasks to. And they've been comparing all kinds of options, looking at other agencies. Usually that's the comparison. It's our company, our agency versus other agencies that do, the same thing or very similar. Possibly looking at hiring an internal employee as another comparison as well. I won't go into like why the differences matter. Obviously, there's a whole discussion around positioning and specialization and so on. But I want to talk about the content marketing part of this because you have to get a lot of basics set up with your content presence on various platforms online. I used to be of the mind that you could just start this and get results quickly. But as I've built now several companies and I look back on the months and years we put into establishing a platform of presence, I see that really to truly get the kind of result like I've had now many times on sales calls, there's so many little touch points that your business has through its content that allows the situation to be set up. So when a person does join a call or looks to purchase something, maybe from a sales page or a sales video from you, like the final step that asks for the sale, they're so primed and ready. You have to basically just show them what you do. There's no real selling. It's just, here, this is what you're going to get. You've already seen our content. You've already had all these experiences with our business. It was all through content, so there wasn't necessarily any kind of human-based experience. And certainly with my businesses, that's always been the case. It's always been content. But it's actually quite a platform. I used to have a presentation called Your Platform Launch Plan. And in that, I talked about how there's all these key pieces of content assets you have to create, but also there's a need to keep creating. There's two sides of this. There's the core foundation content assets you have to have. A starting point is obviously a website where you mention your products and services. For an agency like mine, it's basically like a brochure style website where you're presenting your offer, your pricing, contact information, testimonials, case studies. And then there's the ongoing part of that where you're producing blog content, which is then being shared also as social media. Possibly you're also doing audio content sharing like podcast media, maybe video. And that's a dynamic aspect of your content. Like you keep adding content because you want to keep showing the world new ideas and showing that you're fresh, but you're also establishing a baseline of key pieces of content that ideally will rank in Google search and AI search. So you've got this kind of more static core foundation you need just as a starting point, and then you've got the dynamic need to keep things fresh and keep providing content, being part of the conversation. And some of this is just purely lead generation. For example, you want someone who searches for your product or service to find you in Google and AI. But then there's also the more human side of this where they're doing a search and they discover you, but then they're doing the comparison shopping, the research, and then they'd go to your social channels and they check, wow, you haven't updated your socials in 2 years. Is this company even up to date? Imagine the reverse. Oh, this person is posting daily and I can just see so much content and it's really valuable. And they've got a podcast, so they're really on top of this. And they've got a YouTube channel. Oh, wow, this is a serious company with a serious presence. So there's all these kind of markers along the way that show your business is of a certain quality, a certain trustworthiness. Now you can throw in other elements like brand, personal brand, not necessary, but in my case, my education teaching business very much relied on the personal branding aspect. So there's another layer of trust building. For businesses like agencies and even SaaS tools, software, often it's testimonials and case studies. That's like a key trust building tool. More content assets you have to build up because you can't just start with testimonials. You have to get clients and service them and make them happy. So there's all these kind of steps you go through to build this foundational content, and then you have to have a system to maintain the dynamic, fresh content. And that's just a baseline layer so that when you're in the consideration point from a person to buy from you, you tick all the boxes. You look professional. You've got the right messaging, the right offer, you're specialized, and you're showing up in all the places with all the different media. And I say that knowing that not every prospect inspects everything you do, but there's all these places where they're going to come up against your content. Some people will listen to a podcast. Some people will just carefully study all your testimonials. Some people will study the sales page offer. Like I've had people who went through, we have a handover video, which basically explains how you begin working with us. And it's about 28 minutes long, I think. And it's just a really very, like, it's in some ways it's boring, but it's very tactical. Like, here's what's going to happen when you sign up with our company. And this is how we can actually do things like take over your email and your calendar and all these other tasks. And this is why we're a little bit more specialized than just hiring a Filipino virtual assistant. And that video, I would not think most people watch it, but the people who are considering signing up with us, that is one of the most powerful videos we have because it lays the groundwork for what they're going to go through and helps them fill in the gaps for understanding why our service is different and why it can solve these unique problems that a lot of other services can't. And that's a resource that just one content asset that I had to build over time. And in this case, I built that one. So there's a lot of boxes to tick and it's a lot of ongoing work just to have that basic platform presence and these key content assets to just do content marketing well. And that's at an entry level. Obviously there's way more advanced things you can do. I'm not even talking about paid advertising here. This is just pure content marketing and pure brand presence online, which is frankly my favorite part to focus on when it comes to marketing and very much what I'm focused on this year. So that's why it's top of mind for me. So I would suggest as a sort of a call to action to end this audio, if you are not on top of the presence of your business, like do you have fresh content on social? It doesn't have to be amazing content every single day, but you have to show that you're alive and you're participating in the conversation of your industry. Do you have core content assets on your website for ranking and search, both AI and Google? Do you have multimedia content? Are you publishing a podcast? Are you producing videos on YouTube? Is there some sort of rhythm to that? Is there habits or a calendar? Even right now, I have a habit of doing one of these audios 5 to 10 minutes per day, and that's giving me all the content I need for written content, social media content. It's going out as a podcast, so I'm hitting a lot of content marketing goals just by recording a 5 to 10 minute audio. By the way, I'm using Patrick, PATRIC.ai to do that. You can check it out. I'll talk more about that one day in the future, but that's what I'm using to record and publish this at the moment. So there's these tick boxes, and frankly, I think for a lot of small business owners, it's overwhelming and too much to do. And that really is like a stepping stone to becoming a larger company, is building the systems and delegating to people in order to make this machine run. And it can be a difficult decision to make because in terms of ROI, you don't always see it, and you certainly don't see it from day one. This is a slow build process that for a lot of businesses, because they just start with paid advertising, they just keep relying on paid advertising until one day they realize, the ads are too expensive, there's too much competition, the ads stop working. In fact, I've had that exact experience with my agency. The ads are just not working like they used to. So we're going back to getting on top of our content marketing, because that's something that is long-term and stable and multi-touch, and it gives you a lot of options. And I think it's the future, especially with AI content. There's just going to be so much out there. You've got to have your presence nailed down. And thankfully, AI can help you do that without just producing AI slop. You can do like I'm doing, share something that is unique, a story, an insight, a piece of advice that's related to your market, your industry, your business. And that can then become a piece of content to solve all those platform presence problems I was talking about, all the places you need to show up. Okay, I'm going to end it there. My name is Yarrow. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Share this audio if you think someone else should listen to it. And if you are interested in more content marketing advice and tips, in fact, I'm going to be doing more coaching on this topic, please get in touch. The best place to go for that is insidegrowth.com. You can join my newsletter, also get in touch that way. Okay, thanks for listening. Talk to you soon.